Good afternoon, people. My name's Laura and welcome to my channel. And what I'm going to be talking about today is my 5 reasons for thriving on a raw vegan lifestyle, or why I think that I'm thriving on a raw vegan lifestyle. So first of all, I just want to say that I don't always think that going raw vegan or going raw vegan right away may be necessarily the best thing for everybody. I really believe that we need to get closer to eating things in more of a natural state more often and really limiting the processed foods, and that's what's most important, I think. My choice to not eat meat, I've been pretty much cross-line between vegetarian and pescatarian for 30 years. So I have not had beef products, animal products, except for fish. And there were times when I wasn't doing that either. So I was borderlining being vegan many times. I didn't completely get rid of dairy all the time. I always went back to it. And that's one of the reasons why I want to talk about this, is because I think a lot of these things are important, and I think it's important to understand a lot of the science behind raw veganism and all the other diets that are out there, the confusion and the reasons why people are failing at this lifestyle. So I'm going to start off with, number one is research. I think that it's really important to research, and I did plenty of researching before I decided to go on a raw vegan diet. I'd been researching for a lot of years, and I had known for many years that dairy was a culprit to allergy sufferers, which I had. And I did notice great big differences when I would quit dairy or cut back on dairy than when I was eating a lot more dairy. So I was becoming more and more aware of things. I also was having trouble with gluten, and I was realizing that I really didn't need to be eating any bread. So about 2 or 3 years, maybe close to 3 years before I ever went on a raw vegan diet, which has been 5 years now, I had quit bread. So I wasn't eating any bread quite a few years before, and I really cut back tremendously on the dairy, to the point where when I did at one time quit dairy altogether, whenever I went back to it, I had severe stomach problems. So I was really starting to see some real serious connections with these things before I made the decision. So when people ask me all the time, well, what made you decide that you just wanted to go vegan? That was pretty much it. I mean, I was already pretty much vegetarian. The only thing I was kind of holding on to was I kind of teeter-tottered with fish, and I still ate some fish. And I also ate sushi, which more so sashimi, which is just a piece of sushi, because I really didn't like the rolls, because things like rice, I noticed through the years, were starting to really cause my stomach to feel bloated. So things like rices and pastas and those things I had really eliminated from my diet before I became raw. So I think this was where some of the problems came in with me, with the fact that I eliminated all those things and I was still eating some raw fish. And I think that that was kind of a haven for the parasites. So this was kind of my journey, but I do think that everybody has their own journey, but I do think that it's very important to have the research behind what you're doing and make sure that you're doing something that you know what you're getting into and you know why you're doing it. one thing that I know for sure is that I never became raw vegan because I saw other people doing it, because I didn't know anybody else doing it. It was something that I had started reading about, and I decided that it sounded like something that I wanted to do. So it wasn't until later that I got introduced to other raw vegans, and I got on the internet and on YouTube and started to open up a whole network. But before that, I didn't know a single person that ever even talked to me about being a raw vegan. So that was why I made my decision, was because of those reasons. Not because I wanted to be popular in raw vegan communities or any of that. So I think that that is really important sometimes, because I think that there are people that have went into this for other reasons, and they weren't necessarily, I do believe that there's some that weren't necessarily doing exactly what they were saying they were doing, and that could lead to a lot of problems. Not making accusations about any person in particular or saying that that was all of it, but I do think that that might have had something to do with some people that turned back to eating standard lifestyle. So that's basically my story on the research part of it and where I started to get into the raw vegan life. So number 2 is detoxing and juicing. So juicing was something that I had always done from back years ago when I bought my first Jackal Lane juicer. I had always believed in juicing, and I always felt really good when I juiced. And I also had done some juice fasting before I ever even became raw vegan, just because I thought that that was something good to do. And so I used to do a lot of these practices, but what one of the problems was back then was that I still went back to some of the dairy and the other things that were the culprits to the problems. So I did know that when I wasn't doing certain things and I was juicing, that I did feel a lot better, and I did believe in fruits and vegetables and things. So that kind of helped me with that journey. But I also want to say that until I actually did the full detoxes and got rid of the same things that I was doing, I didn't have the same I didn't have the same results when I was doing what I was doing before. And my results didn't happen overnight. This was something that I had to get rid of a lot of things, and I've talked about this in other videos about the mercury amalgams in my mouth, and I had to get rid of mercury, and I had to completely detox from, I found out that I had parasites, and I kind of, from the reading, kind of figured that I probably did have parasites because of what I was doing, which was eating raw fish and things, and it turned out that I did. And it was a very long parasite cleansing procedure that I went through, and a lot of very icky times. It took me at least almost 2 years before I completely started feeling very, very well on this lifestyle. There were times in between where I stopped detoxing, and I could see that I was feeling better than I ever had. So I knew that something was happening, and I knew, as sick as I was doing these detoxes, that there was something happening. So I decided to just bite the bullet and keep going and keep struggling through it, because it wasn't exactly easy for me going through all this detoxing, but it was something that I did. And I also didn't, in the first 2 years, I didn't have a dehydrator. I didn't even have the better blenders like the Vitamix and things. I was using other cheap blenders that I could afford, and I was blending some really icky tasting stuff. I was not having a lot of fun during those 2 years. So I do think that all that discipline and stuff that I went through in the first 2 years is one of the reasons that I'm thriving now on a raw vegan lifestyle. So number 3 was the microbiome, which I think that my microbiome was really a mess. And I know that just from certain things that I was dealing with and going through. And I really didn't know a lot about that till toward the end of my researching. And I started to see that they were talking a lot about eating things like sauerkraut and kimchi and things like that. And I started saying, what is all this stuff about? And I really started looking into those things. And I realized, wow, this is what I really need to do is think about changing my microbiome known as the gut bacteria. And so I started working on those things and eating things more through foods. I really don't like so much to take things. I do take Dr. Ruth or Mary Ruth's, which is a liquid type thing. And I did start taking that, and I've continued to use that. I don't take it every day, but I do take it. And, I really was more interested in that than I was anything, because I realized that that was the whole key to the entire system in the body is the microbiome. If that is not right, nothing is right. So this is a very, very important thing. And so I just really dove into reading about that and understanding all of that. And I think that most of the raw vegans that I know that have been successful have been very deep in researching and doing all these things and working on all of these things, rather than worrying about the recipes and the things that are fun to do, and we all like to do those things. And we have to be satisfied with what we eat, and we can't look at it like discipline. We have to eventually enjoy our food, and that's one of the reasons why we do the things we do with creating different things that remind us of some of the foods from our cultures. So number 4 is that I eat a variety of foods, a variety of different greens, a variety of different colors, and I'm always trying to change up my salads, my recipes, and I'm always trying to add different things and think about what things that are the most important for me to mix and change. And if I've been eating too much of the same thing, I always try to change up a little bit. And I think that that's very important for the microbiome, and I think it's just important for our overall health, is to not keep eating the same things all the time and think that we only like these 3 varieties of things. And I've often seen on a lot of different YouTubes and different people just talking and making the statement that raw vegans don't have a lot of variety because we're not eating the meats and the dairy and all of that. And I totally 100% disagree with that. I think that there is more different kinds of fruits and veggies to eat than there are different varieties of meats and dairy, and that we don't really need those things in order to get the variety. That we have nuts, we have seeds, we have fruits, veggies, sprouts. There's just so many different things that we can keep getting into, and we might sprout certain things or buy certain sprouts for a while, and then we may want to try different sprouts. I mean, there's such a variety of different sprouts. There's such a variety of different leafy greens, and there's such a variety of fruit, and there's some of it that we have a hard time getting access to. But what I try to do is, when there are fruits available, like right now, dragon fruits are out, I just eat a lot of the dragon fruit because I know I'm not going to get a lot of that at another time, and maybe not eat so much of the other fruits that I've been eating, and then go back to that in the winter months. And there's some sprouts that I might do more in the winter, because in the summer I'm doing more outdoor gardening and things of that nature, and I might be eating some different greens from outside. So I think that you always have to be changing and refreshing new ideas and adding varieties in order to be able to thrive on a raw vegan lifestyle. So number 5 is sprouting, and I know that I talk about sprouts in a lot of my different videos. I love sprouting. My favorites are sunflower sprouts, but I love to sprout clover, broccoli, lentils, chickpeas, all of those different things. And lentils and chickpeas are also very filling, and they also have protein. So anybody that would be worried about protein, that would be a way to get protein. But the thing that I wanted to talk about is the biophotons in these sprouts is amazing, and that is the light energy that goes into these foods and then goes into our human cells in our body, and it makes us feel alive. And so these things really help us thrive once we have cleaned out our bodies and have the right microbiome for these foods. So I think that that is important to understand, because some people may not have cleaned their bodies out enough and changed their microbiome enough to really get the good out of these things. So these steps are really important on how you go about going into a raw vegan lifestyle is very, very important, I feel. I am thriving because of the research I did, and the order and the way that I went into this was the right order and way for me to thrive. I had to go through some hard things first, but it was very well worth it. And I hope that some of this helps people to realize that I'm not making judgments on the right and wrong ways to do things, because everybody has their own journey. So I'm not giving people a perfect order to do things to thrive. I'm just giving ideas, because for the people out there that are having trouble thriving on this, or not knowing why they're not surviving on this, or why they're always feeling hungry, and you are always going to be feeling hungry, particularly if you are adding certain cooked foods. And it's really not like I feel that cooked foods are a big, huge culprit, because I still eat occasionally sweet potato or some beans, and it's not very often, but I don't feel that if people did want to do it a little more often, that it would be a bad thing. As long as you're still eating about 70% of your food raw, you can still have a lot of the benefits, I feel. It's just a choice that I am more closer to about 97 or 98% raw. But I think that it's up to the individual. I really think that people just need to know what this lifestyle entails before they get involved with it. I do think that they have to do some research on it and understand the science behind this. And there's such beauty in this lifestyle if it could be done correctly, depending on the person and what their needs are. I think that anybody can live on this. I think that any human being, our bodies are designed to live on this. I don't feel that people have to go on a carnivore diet and they have to do all these other things, and that raw vegan foods do have all of the things that we need in it. We just have to change our gut bacteria in our bodies. For years, we have been eating all of these breads, pasta, cereals, processed foods and all this, and people think that, oh, it's because it's so hard to digest the raw foods. Well, at first it is going to seem hard to digest them, because our bodies haven't worked hard enough to learn how to digest foods, because we've been eating all these cooked and processed things, helping us to digest a bunch of dead stuff that isn't even really giving us any life force or any good things into our bodies. So we have to learn how to go through these things, and you can eat all of the fiber that you want, and it's not bad to eat too much fiber. And I've heard a lot of people say that, you know, raw vegans eat too much fiber, we can't process all the fiber. Well, no, not at first, we can't. And yes, cabbage will give you gas if you've always eaten meat and you've always eaten processed food and you've never eaten much veggies. Things like that can give you gas. I went through a lot of intestinal stuff the first 2 years. There were times when I felt like my gut was going to explode. It was so bad. And those were the things that I feel were wrong in my body that needed to change. And that was when the change happened, along with juice fasting, which, you know, I finally did do a long juice fast, and I am a big advocate of juice fasting because I think that that's a good way to get rid of a lot of things in the body. And I did a video on mucoid plaque, and I think that when you get rid of mucoid plaque and you get rid of all the biofilms and all the garbage in there, has a clean environment, it's more likely to be able to take in all the minerals and vitamins and things that we need to thrive in our body. So I'm going to just close with that, and I'm going to read this, and this is out of Psalms, and it's chapter 118, verse 6, and it says, "The Lord is on my side, I will not fear. What can man do to me?" So I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and have a wonderful, blessed day.